welcome to Where's Wilmington? I'm Lisa Capalla, and I'm sure you know who this gentleman is sitting next to me. If you live anywhere in Massachusetts, you probably know who he is. It's Representative Jim Miceli. And he's here today to talk a little bit about some things that were talked about in the interview we did a few weeks ago with Doug Sears, who is your opponent in the case. And we feel it's fair that we give you some time to say some things about yourself and a little bit about that interview and some comments you'd like to make. So let's start off talking a little bit about you and who you are and all that.
I really appreciate it, and I know there's a good viewership on this program, because after the last program aired, I received a few phone calls advising me to take a look at the program. I've lived in Wilmington for many years. Moved up here with my mom and dad while I was going to Northeastern University, and then my wife and I moved up here, bought our own house up here back in 1961. I've served on the Board of Selectmen, served on the Planning Board, served on the Board of Selectmen for 12 years, Planning Board for 3. I've been in the Mass Legislature since 1977. Town is great. 2 towns, this district is probably the best district you could represent. And I'm not just saying that. Both towns have similarities. The folks, the makeup is the same, basically. And it's a great, hospitable town as far as the district is concerned, and there are a lot of good things for kids and what have you.
Right, Wilmington and Tewksbury, very family-oriented
communities.
Yes,
absolutely,
really nice.
Absolutely. My youngsters went to Wilmington High School. My son graduated from Wilmington High, went on to the Naval Academy, graduated with honors from high school, went on to the Naval Academy and graduated from there with honors. Had his degree or commission presented to him by Ronald Reagan, President Reagan. My oldest daughter, Hope, graduated from Wilmington. She's now a school teacher in Connecticut. They're all married. I've got great-grandchildren, not great-grandchildren, grandchildren with the 3 of them.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And my youngest, my daughter's an attorney, also running an insurance business, and graduate of Babson. All great kids. And all terrific kids, and she went to Brook School too. While after
the apple
Wilmington,
doesn't fall far from the tree, you know.
But no, the point I'm making is, you know, there were great ties to this district for me.
Yes.
I've had my kids have gone here and participated here. My wife and I love the area, like everyone else. And it's nice to hear people say, gee, great to live in Tewksbury, great to live in Wilmington.
And we see you all over the town.
Absolutely.
See you every day somewhere here.
Absolutely. I make myself available. First of all, I'm available daily if people want to get me on the phone. And I deal with problems. People will call us, and people have some significant problems regarding health care. I resented very much what he said. He said something like, oh, they call Santa Claus when they got to put grandma in the nursing home. Well, let me tell you, when you're talking about nursing homes, you're talking about a very sensitive time in people's lives, and to make light of it, I think was rather ridiculous of him.
I feel like the point he was trying to make, and I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong, was that he said you give people the impression you're doing them favors when it's actually part of your job.
That isn't what he said, though. What he said is, let me just add to that. What he said was he thinks that you know, putting people in nursing homes is not very important. But I do a lot more than that, an awful lot more than that. I can drive through these 2 towns and show you projects that I've had a hand in, that have my fingerprint on them, and that I've obtained funding for, and you know, not only involved in that end of the situation, but I've had people who call me and need some, for instance, health care. I had a couple of people who called recently, couldn't get the health care they needed, couldn't get it authorized by the insurance company, needed these very important operations. After I got through wrestling with the insurance companies, they were approved, and the surgery was taken care of. I've had people who call me and, for instance, might need something as far as getting into some of the schools is concerned, can't, and will do it. Had someone who called me recently again, women had radiation bills in the amount of $10,000
Wow.
and wasn't able to pay them. We worked with the insurance companies, the hospitals, and got the bill forgiven.
You know, it's funny
So-
because I would never think of that being within the realm of what you do,
But
but it is.
But people do. People call me. And as I said, I take great pride in it. And when he says that's what you're supposed to do, let me tell you, we go beyond that. We go above and beyond that. And I don't put any limit or any boundaries on what I can do on behalf of my constituency. So the bottom line is we do an awful lot.
So what about his comment that you're really only worried about staying in office, that your main
Great.
concern is
I'm
being
glad-
elected, and that really all you're worrying about is just staying here forever until you die?
I'm glad you asked that. Gee, that sounds so permanent.
Well, that's what he said.
But it's absolutely, absolutely not true. And what he neglected to mention was he's been talking about being a teacher and a minister, which is hogwash. He's a hack. He has worked for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the last 17 years. He got his job through a politician, worked there, when they talk about hack jobs, his was a hack job. And he managed, while he was there, up until a few months ago, he got fired. He didn't get laid off, and that's an honorable situation. And getting fired, there's nothing to be ashamed of, but to get fired from a state position such as the one he had, believe me, you've got to go some to do that.
Well, we do want to be, I know you're upset, and of course
Oh, no,
anyone
I'm not-
would be.
I'm not
But we do
upset.
want to be
No, I'm
careful
not
because
upset.
I don't want him to contact
no.
us after this show and say he wants to talk about that. So we want to be
Lisa,
careful.
Lisa,
Let's talk
yeah,
about
yeah,
you,
yeah.
not him.
Let's talk about everything.
All right.
First of all, this was featured as a rebuttal, and that's what it is.
All right.
I
Fair
don't
enough.
want, and that's and that's what you said, and I don't
Yes.
need you to placate me either. But I was going to say that as far as that's concerned, he said these things,
True.
and I'm going to answer them too.
All right.
And as far as him calling you, that's up to you. You're doing what you want to do. And I'll say it again. Some of the things that he mentioned, the staying in office forever. I've been reelected by the public, which is a great honor, and I've been reelected for a significant number of terms. And and he said things like, "I've lost the fire in my belly." Absolutely untrue. Of course, it's an old hack saying. That's absolutely untrue. There's probably no one more active in the legislature than I am. And my colleagues will tell you that, and the people in the district will tell you that. But, we talk about different things, helping people with problems.
Right.
Also, as far as that's concerned, I can walk through this town, see things like the town forest. I proposed that, got it through the town meeting, got an appropriation in the legislature for that. The current library that we have, I was on the Board of Selectmen when that was built, and I was given a chair because of the work that I had done in the construction of that library. So the point I'm making, I'm a very active legislator. When people need something, and I'm talking about whether it be a board or right now, I've been asked in the town of Tewksbury to help them obtain a grant relative to a field that they're putting in, turf field, and artificial turf, I should say, and putting in one of those situations, and we've been working hard with them. I had the chairman of the school committee say that there's no one who's worked harder on this project than I have. And it's not about me, me, me. I'm just showing you that I'm active, I'm involved, and I'll continue to be that way. But more importantly, I care about people. Everyone says that. That's a trite saying. But I do care about people. He wouldn't tell you if your coat were on fire. He's had a miserable record as a local official, I'll be frank with you. And for instance, a few years ago, do you remember in Tewksbury when they were being billed with $2,000 and $3,000 water bills?
Yes.
He is the only member sitting on that Board of Selectmen today, the only member sitting on that Board of Selectmen who voted for the bond issue that was slated at $80 million, went to $100 million to sewer the whole town at a time when they couldn't afford that. So what happened was with the program that was put together, people started receiving water bills for $2,000 and $3,000.
I live in Tewksbury. It happened to us.
And he's the only one sitting there today that voted for that. And that's documented.
Interesting.
So the point I'm making is that, and you know, we got calls in our office. People who were, their homes were being threatened. They were going to lose their houses, and people did. I think there are people who ended up having to sell their homes because these bills were just something that they couldn't handle.
It's frightening when you don't understand how the system works and you feel you have nowhere to turn. You're just writing the check and sending it out, and that's unfortunate.
True.
What do you think about what he said about he's the new voice, that we need a new voice?
Wonderful. New voice. He's not much younger than I am, and he's an old voice. He's been in and out of government in that town like a revolving door. And I'll say this, I have never had, and I say this unequivocally, as many people call me when I announced my campaign for re-election, call me from that community saying that absolutely want to work for me, want to help me, and you know, they don't feel he's fit to hold public office. That's their words, not mine.
Okay.
But bottom line is, and you know, he talked about things like fire in the belly. Let's see. And
one of the phrases he used was new and improved. That, you know,
new and
he will be
improved.
the new and improved candidate.
Yeah, new and improved. Let me tell you, he's been through that community like someone, as I said, going through a revolving door. He's not new and improved. I'll come back to that again. He's a hack. He worked for the state, had a state job, was on the state payroll until recently, and in his early literature, you wouldn't even know that. But bottom line is, he's not new, he's not improved, and you know, that's nothing but
he's saying he's going to stay if he
politician.
gets elected. He says he's going to stay only for 2 terms. And my question to him was, how much change can someone affect in 2 terms? You know the political machine. How important is it for someone to know how the system works? I'm wondering if he does get elected, how long it will take him to figure out the system, and then it'll be time for him to scoot. What do you think about that?
First of all, I don't believe he'd adhere to that, the 2 terms. Well, let's say he did. 2 terms isn't enough to accomplish anything significant. If you look at the number of people who've served in the legislature, very few stay just 2 terms. In order to get something moving, in order to get something running, and I'm talking about a project. For instance, recently, there was a problem with a bridge in this community. Well,
I know the one you're talking about, the Brown Street area bridge.
The Brown Street Bridge, and that, and sometimes, Tewksbury, they call it the Whipple Street Bridge. The Whipple Road Bridge. That serviced 3 towns.
Right.
That was waiting there for 18 months. So you
Forever.
So you talk about serving 2 terms.
Right.
I am on the Committee on Transportation. I had a little wrestling match with one of the assistant secretaries of transportation back and forth on the committee, and then the Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Davey, came up to me, and there's a lot of witnesses there, came up to me and said, consider that my project. When can we meet? I said, how about Friday? He's out there Friday. He probably had 10 cars with him from from the Department of Transportation. Had 10 cars, told me it would be done in 6 months. They finished probably in 5 months. We opened that bridge a few weeks ago.
Yes, and I was so happy because now it takes me so much less time to get home. I was thrilled about that.
It made a big difference.
And you know, that's the stuff that does matter too, if you want to call it that, the little people. You know, the roads, the schools, those are the things that really matter to us. I don't know what your political beliefs are. I don't know what his are either. I'm not really a political person. But I do like it when my roads are well paved, and I like it when I can go on my bridges, and I think that's where most of us are.
And you join the majority of people.
Yeah.
The situation now as far as Wilmington High School is concerned.
Yes, let's talk about that. That really bothered me.
I anguish over that.
Yeah.
I really anguish over that. And I've spoken with everybody. I've gotten up at town meeting, spoken on behalf of the school. And I thought we had reached that culmination point recently where I said, oh, gee, thank God. There was a directed verdict, and we're off and running. But I understand there's going to be further appeal. The only thing I can say is that's their right. But I think when you start spending your own money for legal fees and attorneys, you're going to take a different look at this.
To me, the way it sounded when he was making those comments, Doug Sears were talking about, it sounded to me like he was making it sound like Wilmington officials had dropped the ball, and that hurt me.
Yeah,
That hurt my feelings because I work here and I'm in Wilmington and I went to Shushing Tech, so I consider myself kind of a Wilmington citizen. I think that everyone on that committee has worked as hard as they possibly can to get it done right. And just because Tewksbury could do it faster doesn't have any reflection on Wilmington, in my opinion.
But really, I love both towns. I was there at the ribbon cutting for Tewksbury High School. I was asked to speak when we opened the school recently. But what he's saying isn't true. Wilmington ran into a situation that Tewksbury didn't. Tewksbury had the town behind them. There was unanimity. There was one problem. We met with the individual, and he had a legitimate concern. Town addressed it. Case closed. And it was just nice, logical discussion. In this town, the officials have met with almost utter hostility. And, if you keep appealing these things, there's nothing to prevent them from doing it, and there's nothing that the selectmen could have done or some of the boards could have done to put an end to it immediately.
Right. I think it's an unfortunate situation, and to bring up such a sensitive topic and to really insult the town wasn't a smart thing for him to do, in my opinion.
He specializes in that. And, you say, gee, you don't want this back and forth. I'm responding to him.
I just want to be careful because we don't want to be that kind of person.
No.
You don't need to dignify those kinds of comments.
Like I said, don't placate me.
Right.
I know what I have to do and when I have to do it. And I do appreciate your calling me and allowing me to come onto the program and to get a chance to rebut this hostility. And you did tell me you thought this guy was impossible to deal with.
Right.
Yeah. And situation is, and some of the other things that he said, and let's see. He talked about an incumbent will do anything to get reelected.
Right.
And I know the context that he said that in. He said, Jim has a sterling character, but I know what, let me tell you, all of my elections have been clean elections. This actually is one of the dirtiest elections I've ever been involved in.
What does that mean?
I'll tell you what dirty elections means. It isn't talking about someone's record. It's making statements like, Santa Claus is helping people with their problems.
So in other words, rather than stating the facts.
And I could go into it deeper, but I don't want to dignify him with a response of that type.
So let's talk about some good stuff, if we can.
Yeah, sure.
If and when you do get reelected, what kinds of things are you going to be doing for the community that we would like to know about so that we can make a good choice when we vote?
One of the big situations that exist right now, and unfortunately, yesterday, Secretary of A&F said that there are some financial problems looming on the horizon. They're not sure of them. The revenues were down this month. But that doesn't necessarily, there's an old saying, one swallow doesn't make a spring. And that's not a definite yet. We're going to have to look at it at a longer term to see basically what the financial picture is. But to answer your question, what I'd be looking for is, number one, to look for an increase in local aid. Number one, for both communities. Wilmington is...
And what would we use that local aid for? Would this be for the constituents or for the town itself, for paving?
You would use it for the town. You would use it for things like education, public safety, things of that nature. When you talk about Chapter 70, you're talking about education for both communities. Wilmington, fortunately, is in a much better financial situation than Tewksbury, and Tewksbury acknowledges that. Wilmington, with some foresight, has had a good deal of orderly growth as far as industry is concerned. And we've got a good, solid tax base. What we have in Tewksbury is we're getting into that point where we've got a manager there and a board there, a board of selectmen, who are in the position right now of trying to build. And they're doing a great job, but financially, Wilmington is in better shape financially right now, through no fault of anyone sitting on any of these boards. But the problem became apparent when in Tewksbury you weren't getting that development that you get here. But don't forget, in Wilmington we have 4 access roads on 93.
Right.
We're 16 miles from Boston. We're about 18 miles from the Mass Pike. We're 10 miles from 495. And in Tewksbury, although they have access to 495, that extra distance to get to 93 makes a bit of a difference.
Right.
But they're in a position now where they're building.
Excellent.
And as far as the school is concerned, Wilmington had the same situation. There was unanimity as far as the townspeople were concerned. And as I said, the appeals and that type of thing is what hurt financially and time-wise.
Okay.
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
What about somebody watching this program who's saying, oh, well, the reason Jim Miceli came on is because he's worried about the election and felt like he needed to speak to these things that Doug Sears said? What about someone watching that who says, well, he's on because he's scared?
You know, my good friend Paul Saunders summed it up right when he talked about running for public office. There are two ways to run for the two best ways to run for public office, according to Paul, were unopposed and scared. I always campaign aggressively, always, even when I'm unopposed. And people will tell you that in town. I'll have people at the polls, I'll go out knocking on doors, meeting people, but I do that every day of the year. By that I mean I'm accessible. I see people in town, talk to people in town, so it isn't only during election. I do this all the time.
Why?
And the point,
Why are you a representative? Why do you do it?
Because I want to. I enjoy it. I love it. And anybody who's ever done business with us or looked for help from us will tell you, first thing they'll get is a phone call back right away. And I've told people, feel free to call my home, and they do. They take advantage of that. And even other folks in the State House say, gee, amazing the number of calls you get here, number of calls you get at home. I enjoy what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I'll tell you what, something else he made fun of. He said, gee, you know, the kids come to the State House, he has their picture taken with him. Let me tell you, I enjoy that, and I'm proud of that. And I'll tell you, you can talk to parents, you can talk to parents, teachers. I can remember going to Washington, D.C. when I was a young kid. And the congressman at that time came out, had a picture taken with us, disappeared. That was the end of it. And I still got that picture, I'm pretty sure. But I make it a real worthwhile experience. You can talk to any of the chaperones, as I said, the parents or the teachers. When the kids come to visit me, and I'm talking about even the delegation, I take the kids aside, bring them in the chamber if we're able to, sit them down, tell them all about the legislature, tell them all about what they can do someday, and really give them an understanding of what's going on. If the speaker's in or if the governor's in and we have access to him, we'll get in and we'll see him. I want those kids to leave knowing something, knowing that somebody cares about them. You know, the people that they elect to represent them care about them. And I want them to have a learning experience. And I'll be honest with you, teachers, Woburn and Shawshene schools, when they bring the kids in, will tell me, gee, you really do it right. The kids really enjoyed it. And we try to make sure that every kid gets a picture.
Right.
And so it isn't just, you have to treat people with respect, no matter what their age, whether they're senior citizens or whether they're young children. You start teaching young children what this legislature is all about, it leaves a more favorable impression with them. Do I enjoy it? Absolutely. Doug, I'd do it time and time again. And I'll say it to you, for you to make light of these things, let me tell you, you really don't know what the job is all about. So bottom line is, to me, that's important. To me, those things are very important. And
you make it live for them. You make them see that it's possible for them to achieve greatness, and that's important.
And I've had kids who've interned. I also have older youngsters who interned with me. Some of them have gone on to run for selectmen in their communities. I had at least 2 people who ran in Tewksbury and got elected in Tewksbury. And I've had kids who've run for the school committee and gotten elected. And I always teach them at a young age. And I we work a program to fit their schedule. In other words, we tell somebody who wants to intern with us, and I'll have some parents say to me, gee, Joey would like to come up and work with you for a while. He can only come in on Tuesdays from 2 to 5, and we say, that's fine. If that's what he can do, by all means. And we show them everything. We hold nothing back from them. There's a dirty word, it's called lobbyist. We even tell them to stay when a lobbyist comes in to talk to us. And not all lobbyists are bad, but I'm just telling you about them. But the kids come away, the older kids, I keep calling them kids, but I'm talking about 17, 18, 16, come away with a great experience. The young kids come away with a good experience too. And when we have something like a team winning a championship, like we had Wilmington with the hockey team, I talked to my colleagues and said, why don't we have them in and show them a good day, get the officials like the speaker and what have you, and show them a good day. We enjoy it too. And it's nice showing off the team from
with beautiful memories for those kids, Was there anything final you'd like to say before we close the program today?
Is the half hour up?
I know, so fast.
It's incredible.
Anything you really want folks to know? I mean, the election is November 6th. It's coming up. Obviously people will make their choices based on what their feelings are.
That's it. Let me say this. My opponent will try to change the image or the way I have worked in these communities with his verbiage. But you know me. I'm the same person who you have elected. I'm the same person who goes into the State House and represents you and comes out here and works on projects that will benefit the community. So I haven't changed. I'm the same person. I guess that's what he thinks his job is, to create a new image. But basically, I'm available. I'll be giving those questionnaires out every year. We hold office hours every month, and you can get me. And I see you. I'll bump into you down at Market Basket. I'll bump into you at church. And this goes for all of my constituents, Tewksbury and Wilmington. So I would hope that you would give me some consideration and think of me when you vote on November 6th. And believe it or not, November 6th is right around the corner. So I thank you very much.
You know what my dad used to say, what you were saying, and thank you for being here. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you so much for watching. This has been a special episode of Where's Wilmington. Just want to remind you that the next time somebody asks you, where's Wilmington, you tell them right here and right here on WCTV. We'll see you soon.